What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo. I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants have finalized their 53-man roster. We broke that down yesterday. Go check it out on the channel. But now, looking ahead, 10 days away from the start of the regular season for the Giants. Of course, we all know we're starting Week 1 at home, Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, and I am pumped, and Alex is pumped too, and I'm sure all of you are also pumped down below in the comment section. But today we're going to look ahead to this regular season, look at the Giants' salary cap health, what they can do if they run into any problems, need to bolster their roster in any way, how much money do they have, and then let's take a look at the long term. How has Joe Schoen set this team up for success in the future as well with the salary cap? That's what we're going to be breaking down in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on this topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will... Alex, how are you doing today, my friend, and what are your thoughts on the Giants' salary cap health going into the regular season?
I'm doing great, and when we break down this salary cap health for you guys, I think you guys are going to be doing pretty damn good too. So the Giants have made themselves some moves this offseason, and the contracts they've signed are very, very good. And a lot of the talent, Ashawn Robinson, Paris Campbell, incentive-laden deals, and then trading for Isaiah Simmons, Boogie Basham, really, really cheap guys here on contract years. A lot of guys are like one-and-done players. And I think a lot of good teams utilize this strategy. They find maybe players that are underperforming on other teams that may be struggling, looking to trade away guys or, maybe hit the reset button. And then you can acquire these guys for next to nothing, and they provide you some substantial value. Like, we'll see if Simmons gives us the value this year at $1 million cap hit. I think that, ultimately we can get a lot more out of him than that's worth. So when you're looking at the Giants' current salary space right now, my friends, we're currently sitting at $5.175 million in available team cap space. Now, you're talking about some big cap hits this year. Leonard Williams has a $32.26 million cap hit this season before he hits free agency. Daniel Jones is at $21.7 million. Adoree Jackson's at $19 million. Of course, you got Saquon at $10 million. Then Andrew Thomas has a $9.3 million cap hit, and then, kind of goes down the ranks here. Mark Lewinsky at $8.35 million. So you're seeing there's some big salary cap hits, specifically the Leonard Williams and Adoree Jackson contracts that will be expiring after this season. So you're going to have to find a way to either extend those two guys on a cheaper contracts, or you're going to have to go in a different direction and go and replace them some way, somehow. Adoree Jackson, we're already seeing, the transition to Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks. We're estimating they're going to be starting on the boundary. That's really good for our cap space, guys. Like, if Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks pan out and they're on rookie contracts, especially because Banks has a 5th-year option as a first rounder, you can go and find yourself a really good slot corner. And slot corners traditionally are not as expensive as elite boundary guys. So if those two guys pan out, the amount of salary relief that gives our team is substantial. I can't even begin to fathom what they're going to be able to do with that kind of money. But if you look into 2024, we have $60.785 million. So immediately take off about $8 million for our 2024 draft picks. And, so we're down to about almost $53 million, which is still a significant amount because you have, Leonard Williams coming off the books. They still owe him $6 million because they restructured his contract previously. And then they still owe Adoree Jackson $3 million because Dave Gettleman is the gift that keeps on giving. And he restructured these contracts 16 times. And now we owe them until the end of days. So, looking at what's actually happening here, Daniel Jones is a $45 million cap hit. That's when his contract hits a peak. So, Adoree Jackson becomes a player you don't need to bring back if Trey Hawkins pans out, if Deontay Banks pans out. So now you can take some of that money, reallocate $53 million. You can reallocate that towards a really good slot cornerback if there's one available. Maybe you draft a guy. Maybe Cordell Flott takes a big step forward. There's some guys that we're really excited about. Andrew Thomas has a $23.67 million cap hit. And then Mark Lewinsky has a $7.2 million cap hit. But good news, cut that guy, save $5.7 million. So the Giants are in good shape in terms of they have a lot of moves they can make. They have a couple guys they can release. I mean, Darren Waller, you could extend him, or rather I think he has a 3-year deal already in place with an escalator of I think it starts at a $14.5 million cap hit and it goes up a little bit for the next 3 years. If they release him, they save $7 million, basically $7 million in dead money, and then that contract is gone. So depending on what happens with Waller this season, we'll see how that goes. with Darius Slayton, they could cut him and save $6 million. If they keep him, $7.75 million in a cap hit there. But, we like Slayton. We think he's going to have a good year, so we'll see how that kind of unfolds. But the Giants have some good moves that they can make if they want to go in the direction of clearing salary space, but they already have about $53 million next year after the deals they have to give out to their rookies. So, Anthony, when you're looking at the health of this team salary cap-wise, it sounds like we're in pretty good shape. Like, I feel like we're in pretty good shape. We have a lot of money. We have rookies stepping up into starting roles, and things seem good. So I'm excited to see what kind of happens here over the next year or so. But, what are you feeling about the health of this team so far?
I'm feeling great about the health of this team in terms of the salary cap, and also in terms of building through youth. That's something that Joe Schoen mentioned today in his press conference. I think he said the number is 39 players 26 years old or younger. That's a huge portion of the active roster. I mean, that's 39 out of 53. It's a big portion of the roster is youth. And so when you're looking at the salary cap health and why the Giants are healthy, that's your answer. That's the reason why, because they're building through youth. They have a lot of talented players on rookie contracts developing, like a Kayvon Thibodeau. Go out there and try and get a pass rusher who gets you 4 sacks in a regular season. A lot of Giants fans or fans across the NFL may have criticized Kayvon Thibodeau for only getting 4 sacks as a rookie. I didn't. I think that's a respectable number for a rookie who missed some time in the preseason with a knee injury. But when you build on that and you go look for any veteran rotational pass rusher to get you 4 sacks, you're paying a pretty penny. But instead, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau on a pretty affordable salary. And if he turns out to be that superstar that we expect him to be, it's going to be a bargain because edge rushers are expensive. And so are quarterbacks and all these other positions, left tackle, right tackle. If Evan Neal pans out and the Giants have Evan Neal on that rookie contract and he turns into one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL, it's a bargain. So the Giants are in a really good position right now, and they don't have too many contracts on the horizon that they need to worry about. They really did get most of their long-term deals done this offseason, of course, with Daniel Jones, with Andrew Thomas, with Dexter Lawrence. Those were all huge deals that the Giants got done now. It's better to get those done sooner rather than later so you can open up your salary cap space and remain healthy in the future. But looking ahead to next season, Alex, there's only a couple contracts that really stand out to me. Number one, Saquon Barkley. We got to go through this drama once again next year. We'll see how this upcoming regular season goes for Barkley, and hopefully the playoffs go for Barkley. If he stays healthy, rushes for a ton of yards, proves to still have that value and that longevity. That's the key here, is to have that longevity for Barkley. Then maybe he does get that long-term deal next offseason, or maybe he's back on the franchise tag. We'll see. Remains to be seen. But the other player, Alex, worth taking a look at is Xavier McKinney. He could be a real wild card here to shake up the health of the Giants salary cap next season because, as you mentioned, they've got a lot of space, but it gets cut down pretty quickly by the upcoming draft class. But then if they have to do any extensions, what happens with Xavier McKinney is going to be really important for the Giants' future salary cap health. So, Alex, when you're looking at that, Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney, and maybe even potentially Adoree Jackson, Leonard Williams, there might be some contract extensions still on the horizon for the Giants. How do you think that those are going to eat into the future salary cap space of the team?
Well, that's a really good question. So it was reported today that Xavier McKinney, they're not even talking with him about negotiating a new contract. So now we look to the future. Is Xavier McKinney such an essential piece of this defense that he warrants a big extension? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves. I really like Xavier McKinney. You really like Xavier McKinney. When you're playing a man coverage system like this, having a really good free safety makes a hell of a difference. So if he's coming off a really good year and he makes an impact, he's a ball hawk. He walks away with a couple interceptions, some nice plays. He shows good tackling, good in coverage, whatever it might be. And, he comes and moves up into the box. They can do a lot of stuff with a guy like McKinney. I think it's worthwhile to extend him. He's young. He learned in this system. He knows the scheme. The Giants have money to spend. Now, the question is, how much are we willing to spend on a player like this? So right now, I feel like I'm in favor of extending Xavier McKinney, but it really depends on how he performs this year. But I like what the Giants are doing because they're not committing any money. Same thing with Saquon Barkley, by the way. Or Andrew Thomas, I guess they signed a couple years early because they know the value of a left tackle. But when you're looking at the free safety position, you can sometimes get other players for cheaper that maybe can do a similar job or similar role. I think McKinney's kind of unique in that he is capable of doing so much, and he's young, fast, and he's getting better. but he hasn't really reached that peak yet. I think if he reaches that peak potential in 2023, we'll see him get his money. But if he kind of levels out, doesn't perform as well as everyone hopes he does, I think they may decide, okay, let's consider moving on here. We'll see if a young guy can develop. Let's see how Javarius Owens maybe performs. He's a really solid young player, 7th-round pick. I don't think he's Xavier McKinney. Don't get me twisted, but I do think that there's potential there. We'll see how he develops as a rookie. But what do you think about that? Like, what is it going to take for Xavier McKinney to get extended? Because he's young, he's going to get a nice payday. We're talking like, if I'm just spitballing here, maybe 13 to 14 million per season. Is that crazy to think?
I don't think that's crazy to think, but it's really dependent on how he performs this year, because I could see his contract being anywhere from a Julian Love to, the top end of the market. So Julian Love got $6 million per year for being a 4-year capable starter for the New York Giants, a strong safety, a versatile, dependable player, never missed time with injuries, really, Julian Love. So I could see that being kind of the floor for McKinney if he doesn't have a good upcoming season. And I think a lot of that depends on whether or not he stays healthy, because if you remember his rookie season, he had a foot injury, missed the majority of the year, only appeared in the Giants' final 4 weeks of the season. And then, of course, he came back year 2, looked like the star that we all expected him to be, 5 interceptions, really did look like the future of the Giants defense. Then year 3, has a good year and knocked out for several weeks with that hand injury suffered during the bye week. That kind of derailed everything for Xavier McKinney. So now if he goes into this upcoming season and doesn't stay healthy, I don't think that you can justify spending big time money on him for the long term. You can maybe give him a 2-year bridge deal similar to the one that Julian Love got, or maybe you throw the franchise tag on him or give him a 1-year deal to prove himself. Those things are possible for Xavier McKinney if he doesn't have a big year. But also, with the nature of the safety market right now and the way that it's been changing, if McKinney goes out there and has another 5 to 7 interceptions this season with close to 100 tackles, then yeah, Alex, I think we're talking about 13 to 14 million. And depending on how well he plays, if this guy becomes an all-pro, you could be talking up to 16 million for a good safety in the NFL. So it's a true wild card. I can't project what's going to happen with Xavier McKinney's contract because I don't know how he's going to perform this year. If we get 2021 Xavier McKinney with 5 interceptions, a good amount of tackles, just a real playmaker on the back end of the Giants defense, then yes, you extend him. You give him probably a 3-year deal worth around $36 million. It's about $12 million per year, right? I'm totally down for that. But if he misses 5 games with an injury, then I don't even know if I pay him at all, honestly. And that's coming from me, a huge Xavier McKinney fan, a guy that was obsessed with him pre-draft, obsessed with him post-draft. Like, I am a big Xavier McKinney fan, but if he doesn't stay healthy this season, I don't know if you can justify even giving him a long-term contract to begin with. So it's a big year for McKinney. It's a prove-it year for McKinney. It's unfortunate for him that he didn't have that 5th-year option on his contract because he was a second-round pick. But as a second-round pick, he's going into a contract year here, and it's put up or it's shut up. He's got to have a big 2023 season. Otherwise, McKinney could be on his way out of the Big Apple. So I think that's really a huge wild card in the Giants equation here with the salary cap. Let's see how he performs this upcoming season. It's a player I'm keeping a close eye on, but McKinney needs a big season to earn that second contract. But again, Alex, I mentioned him earlier, Adoree Jackson. Now, this is also another player that I'm really intrigued by in terms of what his future is with this team, how his future can, kind of adjust our salary cap. Because when you're looking at McKinney, that's a young player on the rise that you want to give a second contract to. When you're looking at Adoree Jackson, he's an aging veteran at this point. How much longer is he going to continue to play at a high level? And this is also a player who's had so many injuries throughout his career, right? So can you justify giving Adoree Jackson a long-term extension? Again, I don't think you can unless he has a big 2023 season, similar to McKinney, but they're in different spots because Adoree Jackson's a veteran. The Giants could feasibly say, okay, we're going to move on from you and just develop our youth. Do you think that Adoree Jackson realistically winds up back here? What does it take for him this upcoming season? How good of a 2023 season does he need to have? I know he's moving into the slot most likely. That could affect his performance, but it also adds value to the player in some respects. So what do you think that Adoree Jackson needs to do in order to earn that next contract with the Giants?
That's a really good question. I'm going to say that he has to stay healthy. He's got to catch interceptions. He's had a couple issues with dropping the football and, has gotten injured at times. I think, look, how old is he right now? He's 28 years old. He'll be 29 next year. He still has 2 years. I'd give him a 2-year deal. I'd be open to giving him, if he performs well, stays healthy, makes some nice plays this season, is effective in the slot, I would be fine giving him a 2-year extension at I don't know what he's making right now. If you look at the cap space for this year, he has a $19 million cap hit. $11 million base salary. I'd give him a 2-year, $24 million deal. I think I'd be on board with that. But I think that there are maybe cheaper options. You're hoping that Cordell Flott takes a big step forward. Now you have a young trio of cornerbacks here that step up and play well. Looking at some of the preemptive free agents in 2024, aside from Adoree, Kendall Fuller, Gilmore's almost gonna be 34 years old. Michael Davis, Jeff Okudah sucks. Kenny Moore, Chidobe Awuzie, Emmanuel Mosley, Steven Nelson, Jordan Lewis, Rocky Sin. I think Rocky is he retired? I don't even know. Somebody retired. Jalen Mills, who actually has been okay in the past, but I don't think I'd go in that direction. Shaquille Griffin, Sean Murphy Bunting, Marcus Peters. There's some younger guys too. Maybe they go out and draft somebody again. Who knows? I mean, drafting cornerbacks is never a bad move. I mean, the Giants got so much value out of them. It's certainly exciting. But look, I'll say this: if the Giants get a lot of value from Banks and Trey Hawkins, and they lock down starting jobs, I don't think you need to overspend on Adoree Jackson to get decent enough play in the slot. You know what I mean? I don't think you need to spend big on him. In fact, I would prefer to go out and sign us a better offensive guard. If we have the money to go out and extend McKinney, and you have to choose between signing a really good offensive guard or bringing back Adoree Jackson, I'm probably going with the really good offensive guard, because right now, Mark Lewinsky, not very good. If Azudu takes a big step forward, we're in good shape. Ben Bredesen, I like him. I still want to see him stay healthy. But an offensive guard, I think, would go a long way. Also, like, what happens with Evan Neal? If Evan Neal struggles next year, struggles this year, rather, what do you do there? Like, if he has a bad season at right tackle, do you push him into guard? Like, I think that definitely should be a consideration. I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want that to happen, of course. But, looking at guards for next year, like, let's see who's on the books. You have NJS Pete, 30 years old. Kevin Zeitler still playing at a really high level. Connor Williams, I think he's a center. Lucas Patrick, Phil Haynes, Dan Feeney, not very good. Graham Glasgow. There's Nick Allegretti from Kansas City. I think he's an undrafted free agent. This is it's not looking too promising at the guard spot, unless the Giants want to invest another top, like, first round draft pick on a guard or a right tackle, which is totally possible. They could do that, or maybe they grab one in the second round. If you're looking at right tackles that are available, you're looking at Andreas Pete, Trenton Brown, James Hurst is really not many options, only like 5 or 6 options. So that doesn't look so promising either. The Giants just need Evan Neal to pan out. That's kind of the God honest truth. But I think that right now our cap health is good enough that we could sign McKinney to an extension. We could probably sign an offensive lineman in free agency if we wanted to, or you just, bring back Adoree Jackson and you sign McKinney, and then you use the draft for that. Like, that, I think that's what I'm trying to get at here is, like, our cap health is so healthy that we have a lot of flexibility in terms of what we can do to improve this team in the future. Like, the contracts are good. You can sign 1-year extensions to guys that maybe you're coming off down seasons, or maybe, like Paris Campbell, like incentive-laden deals. So right now, feeling very, very good about the state of the New York Giants, where we are. The draft selections are panning out, or at least they're promising. And the veterans are good. The starting unit looks good. A little bit of a depth issue at some spots, but every team has weaknesses in some categories, except for the Eagles, apparently. So I feel like I'm feeling good about this upcoming season and the future.
Yeah, honestly, I will say real quick, I disagree with you. I think that the Eagles are really thin on the defensive end, and I think they're going to get exposed this year. One fun fact that I love about the NFC East, there hasn't been a repeat winner of the division in, I think, 12 seasons or something crazy. I don't know the exact amount of time, but it's been like a decade since someone has won the division back-to-back seasons. So everyone's really high and mighty on the Eagles. I would honestly take a little nap, snooze a little bit. I'm sleeping on them. I don't think that they're going to repeat because history says that they won't. And also, that defense got decimated in free agency. But back to the main topic at hand with the New York Giants, I want to hit on what you said about the right tackle, right guard situation, because you mentioned at the start of the episode, Mark Lewinsky is a player that can very likely get cut next offseason. So what I want to say is, in terms of the offensive line, the depth there, Evan Neal, whether or not he's going to pan out, in my opinion, if he doesn't, you kick him into right guard and then you find a new right tackle early in the upcoming 2024 NFL draft. I think that would be your solution there. However, that's so much easier said than done. If that happens, if the Giants are able to get an early offensive tackle in the draft, it means they had a bad year. So Evan Neal needs to have a good year. The Giants need to have a good year. And I don't even want to think about the possibility of trying to move up in the draft and try and land another franchise offensive tackle. It just would be an absolute clown show for the Giants that have to go through that business. But there are a lot of opportunities here on the Giants roster in terms of keeping things flexible in the salary cap space as well. Alex, I know you mentioned earlier the Darren Waller contract, very flexible. Daniel Jones contract, very flexible. That's one that I'm hoping we don't have to touch. I think that with Daniel Jones having the ability to move on from a quarterback, if you can, if you need to, is really, really important. So I'm hoping that the Giants don't have to touch that one. But what I will say, what's really commendable here, Joe Shane with the flexible contracts. That's the word that I've been saying all offseason long, Alex. Flexible has been the name of the game for Joe Shane and the New York Giants this offseason. Every contract has had incentives in it, has had the ability to get out of it really early. It's just been a masterwork by Joe Shane in my eyes. And another thing that you mentioned, Alex, the draft classes look like they're finally going to contribute in a year in and year out basis. Be solid contributors, develop into starters, and again, building through the youth, Alex. So before we wrap, I will just ask you, when you're looking at the youth of this team, right? Because Joe Shane, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, he made sure to point out during the press conference today, the Giants have 39 of their 53 active members of the roster at the age of 26 years old or younger. What do you think that means for this team? Not only in terms of the salary cap health, but also for their performance this upcoming season and for the future, just to have a lot of youth that's here developing and giving meaningful snaps to the team.
I mean, the development of the future, the importance of having this amount of youth is paramount. This is what good teams do. You draft good players, you build a foundation through the draft, and then you plug the spots that you need with the veterans. You can't build a team through free agency. We've learned this year after year under the leadership of Dave Gettleman when he just went on massive spending sprees. Jerry Rice did it to try and save his job with Damon Snacks Harrison, Olivier Vernon, and Janoris Jenkins, and, it doesn't work. I'll say this. You can pay your way sometimes to a playoff appearance, but you can't pay your way to a freaking Super Bowl. Can't do it. Not going to happen. Never going to happen. If you look at what the Giants did during their Super Bowl runs, who stepped up in the big moments? Undrafted free agents like Victor Cruz, 7th round draft picks like Ahmed Bradshaw, guys that should not have been making impacts in Super Bowl caliber seasons. They came up big in the biggest moments. Those runs. I remember that Bradshaw run against the Packers, just grinding out those yards. You can't win a Super Bowl unless your draft picks make an impact on your team in a very positive way. Jordan Riley making this roster, every 7th round pick that we've had this season, Jordan Riley, Jarius Owens made the roster. You know how many times 7th round picks get cut? They're basically undrafted free agents. Jordan Riley looks like a good player. Trey Hawkins is a 6th round pick. He looks like a good player. I'm ecstatic about what the Giants, the fact is, the Giants turned Kadarius Toney into Trey Hawkins and Darren Waller, guys. I mean, not even in my wildest dreams could I have imagined us getting that much value in return. Wildest dreams. No, never. You know what I mean? You get a starting level cornerback in the 6th round and a tight end who is healthy and has already flashed that he could be elite for us this year. God help him stay healthy. You know what I mean? Some of the moves, and it's not just like a singular move, and everything's correlated. You have to have the proper, the Giants got a draft pick, I think, the 6th round pick they got. The scouts had to go out there and find Trey Hawkins and find his value. It's not like you just stumble upon these guys. This takes a lot of effort and work. And it pans out when everything is connected and the synergy is great. When the whole team is operating at the same level and everybody's firing on all cylinders, that's when you see successful organizations reach their potential. Right now, we're sniffing that potential. We have not seen the success yet, but what we have seen is a lot of promise, a lot of upside, and people are like, why are the Giants fans so excited? Why? Because we've just gone through a freaking decade of pain and suffering. If you guys have been watching Fireside Giants for the last 3 years, you know that Anthony and I have been trying to fight our way with optimism through this entire process. We have been here day in and day out, every single day, talking about how this team shat the bed or made this mistake, or we were excited about a signing because we were looking for anything to be excited about. This is different because we've seen what losing looks like. This is not what losing teams do. They don't find late round draft picks. Losing teams don't get value out of their mid-round selections. Losing teams don't go out and sign incentive-laden contracts that end up making a big impact on your team. Losing teams don't make the playoffs with the roster we had last year. Losing teams don't make Isaiah Hodgins look like a freaking wide receiver 1 for half a year with no chemistry with your quarterback. Losing teams don't reduce Daniel Jones's fumbles and turnovers from 20 to 4 or 5 in a single season. That's not what losing teams do. We're witnessing a transition here that, in my opinion, is something that we have not experienced in a long, long time. and I'm here for it, man. People wonder why we're excited because we have been here every step of the way. They have not been here seeing and detailing every single mistake this team has made over the last 4 or 5 years like we have. So if you're part of the Fireside Giants community, you're right there with us. You're excited. This season's going to be fun. I'm super ecstatic about what this team can accomplish, and I think that we're going to see some really great football this year. And the first things first, let's beat the shit out of the freaking Dallas Cowboys because they piss me off, and I want to show Jerry Jones, get the hell out of MetLife. This is our home, bro. This is our freaking home. I don't want to see any more NFC East rivals come into our home and kick us out. Like, I just can't stand that anymore. I think we're finally at a place where we can actually win in our home and make sure that they walk home with their tail between their legs.
Yes, sir. A little bit of added passion there from my guy Alex, and I'm excited too for this upcoming regular season. We're looking ahead to that Week 1 game, and not only that, but you just mentioned the success of this upcoming season, how we're getting ready for that. But tying it all into the greater purpose of this episode, we have the success built into the long term now. This roster is built for long-term success. So we'll start off this Week 1 hopefully beating the shit out of the Cowboys, as you mentioned, and hopefully going through a really successful regular season. And hopefully we'll do it all again the following year and the year after that, because that's what the Giants are building right now, a long-term contender that can go along with the heavyweights in the NFC. And I am so excited for this upcoming season. Of course, we're going to continue to update you on everything with the New York Giants regular season, the postseason as well, because we'll be there again throughout the year right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on this topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.